Here we go.
Go ahead. This is very cool. Excellent. So I'm going to get started then. Hi, everyone, and thanks so much on this last day in March, April Fool's Eve, joining us for Kumihimo with Michaels, and I am Leslie Rogalski, Creative Director for the Beadsmith. Joining me today, we have Lindsay, who's our tech guru, and my absolute number one at the Beadsmith. The other Leslie Pope is here. She's going to be monitoring the chat and helping me to answer questions. So remember that this workshop, which is the Kumihimo 401 today, so you know you're in the right class. This is all being recorded, and I'm going to step through this like I have been in my other classes and demo it for you. You are not expected to and should not expect yourself to follow along. Because this is recorded, you'll be able to go back to the Michaels site and watch it again and follow along with a written tutorial, the link for which will be, I think, in the chat room, and it also is probably emailed to you. You can get it through Michaels. So I guess we're ready to get started. Like I said, good to see you. So Lindsay, if you could switch over to my bead mat where all the magic's going to happen, we can do this. There we go. Hello. Okay. So I'm going to refer to the tutorial to make sure that I'm doing this exactly as I've written. You know, sometimes I get ahead of myself. So what we're going to do today is refresh everybody who might be a beginner for learning how to do Kumihimo on the Beadsmith Kumihimo disc. And then I'm going to, and I'll show you the pattern and what happens and how you make the pattern. And then I'm going to show you how to add beads in between sections of the Kumihimo. And these don't slide on here. They're not, you know, they're not pushed down just over the braid when you're finished. It's a little different if you've taken other Kumihimo classes or you've worked with something like this, where the beads are pre-strung on each cord and woven in as you're doing the braid. This is done a little differently. We actually are going to stop the braid, string the beads on, and resume braiding. And I'm going to show you how you do that without losing your place in the braid. So let's start from the beginning. The materials we need. Well, I'm working with the satin cord, 2mm satin cord, and I've got it in black and white to do the dotted pattern. The Beadsmith has a kit that you can buy at the Michaels. You get the disc, you get your bobbins, which you use to wind up the long thread, helps keep them from getting tangled, right? And it also comes with findings for the endings of the braid, as well as some cord for a different project. So you would be able to make a necklace in these colors with these endings. Now, today's class uses extra materials that are outside the kit. But like I said, you do get this great disc, the foam disc with the numbers and the notches, and the bobbins. You'll get jewelry glue in here. You get other cord so you can make other things, and the findings from the Kumihimo braiding kit for beginners from the Beadsmith. So here's your disc. And I'm not sure, I know this was, this class is titled for beginners. So I'm going to go through that really beginning stuff. A lot of you may already know how to do this. The Kumihimo disc, hole in the center, numbers on the side. Notice the dots at north, south, east, and west are 12 o'clock, I use the clock face, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock. We're not going to pay attention to the numbering at this point, but we are going to pay attention to the fact that your work is going to be completely at right angles as we work around the disc. So to start off, for a full necklace, you're going to want to pre-cut, you're going to want to measure your cords. And for a 24 to 26 inch necklace, you're going to cut 8 cords, and each cord is going to be 2.5 yards long. 8 cords, each 2.5 yards long. And it all says it here. You're going to have actually extra, because when you work with Kumihimo, you want to make sure that you have enough to hang over the edge and still be able to work your braid. So I see somebody raise their hand. Is that a question I need to answer now, Les? Can you tell? It's
No,
kind of
I can't see it.
Okay, there's people, if you
So
can,
if you have a question, just type it into the chat.
there you go. Okay, so the 2 people who raised their hands, if you can type your question into the chat, Leslie Pope will tap me on the shoulder virtually and I can address the question. If it's something that can wait until the end, we can go back and answer all the questions. But type your questions into the chat and we'll try to get to you. So to set up the disc, the first thing you do is, let's see, here's the start. Okay, I have taken my 8 cords. We're going to start again. I have taken my 8 cords and I have tied just an overhand knot at one end. Now I'm working with shorter cords for the demo, but you're going to have long, long cords, 2.5 yards each. For the dot pattern, you have 2 of one color and 6 of the other, and they're just tied together. Now you're going to take your overhand knot end and just poke it down in the hole a little bit, and I just hold it with my fingers on the back. To set up the disc for this pattern, in the tutorial, it shows you, can you see this little circle diagram here? It's a little hard to see the colors, but you can see that the B cords are in red. There's one going up to 12 o'clock and then one coming down on the side, and the rest are all the black cords. So I have 2 white and 6 black, and you can see how they're set up right at right angles to each other. Basic Kumihimo patterns look like this. Now this is an 8-cord pattern. You can go up to 10 and 12 and 16. There's a lot more complex patterns. But to show you how to get the different patterns in your braid like this is how it is. So they're pretty easy to read. So we're going to set up. I have my knot underneath, and I'm going to bring one white cord up to the right of the top dot and the other white cord down to the left of the bottom dot. Then I'm going to bring in, it doesn't matter if they're overlapped, I'm going to set up my disc to have a cord on either side of all the dots. So I have 2 cords at 3 o'clock. See, I can untwist this a little bit. All right, so we have 2 cords at 12 o'clock, with one of them being the white cord, 2 cords at 6 o'clock with the white cord on the left. So here it's on the right. And like I said, don't worry about this being twisted because we're just going to knot around it. So this is the basic setup. Now with the long, long cords that you're going to have, you're going to want to use your bobbins. The bobbins are these soft plastic things and they pop open. You're going to take the end of your cord And I just hold it with my finger and wrap it around and around and around until I have maybe 6 or 8 inches to the disc, and then you pop it closed, and that holds the cords. So when you're working, it's going to help you to keep it from getting too tangled. I'm not going to use the bobbins today because I have short enough cords and I don't want them to take up space in my very limited little staging area here for you guys. Okay. The thing to remember, there's 2 things really to remember when you work with a braid. One of them is a mantra. I call it the mantra. Thanks to my friend Jill Wiseman. If you guys are beaders, some of you would really know her. She says to remember that Kumihimo is downright uplifting, which means that you're going to go down to the right and up to the left. So down right, up left, down right, up lefting. So here we go. We're going to take the cord on the right, take it out of its slot, and bring it down to the right at the bottom. Now you have 3 cords. Now up left, take the cord on the left, bring it up to the left of the top cord. Do a quarter turn. I always turn clockwise. It doesn't matter if you turn the other way, as long as throughout your project, you're always turning in the same direction. So now we continue. Take the cord on the right, bring it down to the right. Cord on the left, up to the left. Quarter turn. Down right, up left, quarter turn, down right. Now here's a tip. It is really hard to be able, if you have to put this disc down, it's very hard even for pros to remember where you were. If this gets turned around, you're like, oh my gosh, which way is down and up now? If you always put your loom down, your disc down, with the down to the right in position like this, you'll always know that the next cord, no matter where this is, you can turn it with the 3 facing you and know that your next move is up left. Quarter turn. Down to the right, up to the left, quarter turn. Down to the right, up to the left, quarter turn. Down to the right. Now, as I'm working, see, I'm leaving this with down to the right. As I'm working, I have small hands and I can reach still around the disc to just hold onto the end, the knot, and give it a little tension. I'm pulling it this way with my fingers, not so that I'm hurting my hands, but just a little bit. You want to make sure when you're doing Kumihimo that the active area is like right at the surface of the loom. You don't want this to be pulled too far into the hole because it's going to make the tension in your braid vary. And if that happens, it's going to look tighter and looser along the braid. And what you really want when you do this is to have a nice, consistent braid. Now I'm sort of glancing back and forth at my computer screen, seeing some questions come up. And I promise, get to them all later. Remember, this is recorded. So I know it might be a little frustrating because you have a question about what I'm doing right now, but I will go back and answer your questions. I promise. Scout's honor.
Yeah, it's the questions are under control. Although I do have one comment.
Yes.
Having the other 2 disc in your work area, yeah, it's a little, there you go. Yeah.
All right.
But everything's under control.
Okay, good. So I have proceeded along with my braid in another section, another sample rather, so I can not take up too much time just doing the braiding See how I left this one with the 3 down? Now here's a part of a braid, little tail coming out of the hole here. What makes the patterns different is how you set up your loom in the beginning. In this one, I only had those 2 white cords and they were in a very specific position. So that's what makes the pattern. There are different braids depending on how you have it set up. This is a spiral with 4 colors and actually has 2 different sizes of cord. This was another Michael's class, and it was recorded, so you can go back and watch and learn how I did this too.
I think that was Kumihimo 201.
Thank you. Kumihimo 201 to add beads. So the difference between that kind of a braid and what we're doing here is that we're adding beads as we go in between the beaded sections. It adds a texture to it, and it keeps the beads from sliding as long as the hole in the bead is large enough for all the cords to fit through, that those beads will work. The size of the bead itself can be really big, and I was not able to find something in time for this class that worked, but just imagine if you had you can get really interesting focal beads to put in here as long as the center hole is big enough for all 8 cords, not braided cords, just the single cords. So I did find at Michael's, they had these really cool decorative silver barrels, and I started to work with them, but they're almost the width of the braid. So just for added texture, they had these great ceramic beads with holes that were large enough to work. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. You want to decide when you're doing your necklace, and the tutorial will give you more specifics, how much braid to have in your necklace before you start adding the beads. So I took my 20-inch necklace and I thought, well, I just want to have the beads at the bottom. I don't want to space them out through the whole necklace, just to make it a little different. And I used an odd number of beads, so there's a bead at the bottom. I find that the necklace lays better when you have that. So I have 9 beads on mine. So I figured out how much braid I needed before I put my first bead on. So we're going to pretend I'm doing that now, and we're ready to put a bead on. You have to string each cord individually through the bead and then place it back into position on the disc. And you want to make sure that you have your down right and your other cords like this, 3 at the bottom, 2 on each side, 1 at the top. And it doesn't matter which cord you start with, but you're going to thread all of them 1 at a time through your bead. The materials list shows a crochet hook, because as the hole of the bead gets filled up with the cords, you're not going to be able to just put it through with just your fingers, and it helps to just have a crochet hook and pull the end through. Yes, it does kind of wonk up the ends of the cords, but these are going to be trimmed off anyway, so it doesn't matter if they get fuzzy from being hooked on the crochet hook. So I'm going to take my first white cord, the one that's down to the right, and I'm going to take it out of its notch and find the end. I'm going to string it through the bead, bring the bead to the active area and replace the cord right in its slot. You're going to leave a little bit of wiggle room for that bead because you're going to have to thread the other cords through. So now working around the disc, I'm going to take the next cord, find the end. If you have it on a bobbin, yes, you have to take the bobbin off, and you're going to string it through in the same direction through the bead and put it back in its slot. So now you can see we have 2 cords through the bead. I'm going to continue around, same direction, pull the cord through, put it back in its slot. It doesn't matter how you manipulate this. If you want to turn it, that's fine. As long as you remember, you're always pulling the cords through in the same direction. In this case, these cords are going to go back over this way. So the next cord is going to come through. Here's the end. And I'm going to poke it through the same direction and put it back in its slot. And with the long cords, you can then roll up the ends back on the bobbin. Here's my next cord. Find the end. Now it's going to start to get snug in there, so I may have to use my crochet hook in a second. Pull it through. Everybody can see that, what I'm doing, right? And you can see how I'm loosening this up so the hole is always accessible. Now I'm going to take the top cord, bring that through, and put this cord back in. Now, remember that you have the down right. So this was the left cord that was up there. So you're going to bring the left up to the left. All right, and we're going to finish with the last 2 cords, and I think I'm going to need my crochet hook. Now here's sort of a tip so you don't go through the cords that are already in there. Press the crochet hook up against the hole, the inside of your bead. And I just catch on to that and pull it through. And like I said, it doesn't matter. All right. Doesn't matter if it gets a little bunged up because you're not going to use those ends. So I'm going to press my crochet hook against the top, and I can feel it scraping the bead. So I know I'm not going to go through a cord. There we go. Grab that, pull it back. Nope, didn't get it. Try that again. Get the crochet hook through. Hook that new cord. Okay, pull it through till you can grab it with your fingers. There we go. And this one went back over here. Now we're going to adjust our work, pulling on these so that this sits back in the middle, pulling nice and tight against the bead. And I'm just pulling down on the cords. I want to show you on the bottom here where the bead is on the braid. You want to make sure that the bead is pulled against the braid. So I'm holding from the other side and pulling the bead down so it comes down to where the dotted pattern is nice and it's sitting nice. There we go. Right there. Snug it up so that it is now level with the top. And we're going to pick up our braiding up to the left, right? Up left, quarter turn, down right, up left, quarter turn. And we're going to continue doing our braid. And this is going to hold the bead right there in between the first section of braid that we did and the next section of braid that we're working on. And then the next thing we figure out is how far apart to space these. Now you sort of have that in mind when you decided where to start. So I have a pretty good eye for distance. I was looking, however, at sort of the dots in between and visually spacing these out to be even. And I would keep doing that, do a braid. When it was time for another bead, do exactly the way I showed you, and then pick up the braid and braid some more. And after the last one, you're going to continue to make a braid as long as your first section. So I have done a pretty even job with my beads and nice consistent tension with my satin cord on here, which by the way is very flexible, but once you've braided, depending on how tightly you have been pulling those cords, you can see this is like standing up by itself. It's like a stick. So, which is fine because when you wear it, it's really still got a suppleness. If you want a little looser, then you can do it a little looser, your tension. You're going to fall in as you become more experienced with Kumihimo and practice. You're going to fall into what feels like a natural tension for you as you pull these. You will find that it just is kind of intuitive for you to consistently pull a certain way. Now, I saw a question on counting rounds. You can count rounds in between after you put the beads on, and you can pay attention to how many times you go around your desk. Absolutely. I tend to be a little more of an organic craft person, so I'm doing visual, and that's my natural tendency to avoid things mathematical, which is really hard to do as a beader and a creative person, right? We end up having to count. But yes, whoever asked that question, thank you very much. All right, so you're going to keep doing this. Yes.
Another question. What do you think the hole size is of the bead that you're using?
I'll tell you right now because I can measure it for you. This is about I'm going to say it's 7 millimeters inside.
Thank you.
So what I did, you're welcome. It's hard when you go to buy beads, and I'll tell you this right now. I really had to guess when I went in because they don't always tell you the internet diameter, the ID of a bead. When you buy beads, if they're strung on a cord, kind of bend the cord and look to make sure, like a big bead like this may have a tiny little hole. So you want to make sure that you can see the hole size. I also knew that I had 8 cords, and I kind of twisted my cords and did a ballpark measurement that I knew I needed something that was going to be at least 6 millimeters wide or 7 millimeters wide. But here's the thing too, you don't want a bead that has a hole that's bigger than your braid because then it's going to slide. You're not going to be able to keep it in position. So it's some trial and error here, depending on where you're getting your beads, which department you're getting your beads from. In Michael's, they have, like I said, they have these really cool metal beads, which have nice big holes. Most of the gemstones seem to have smaller holes. So I was hoping for something chunkier on here, but these worked, and they do have other things, and you can absolutely bring a sample braid with you. You know, take a little piece that you've braided. If you're always using these cords, it doesn't matter what the pattern is or anything. You can hold it up to the strung beads and be able to make a pretty intelligent guess as to what's going to fit for sure. All right, so let's show you how to finish this up. You have your braid and you have your beads on there, and your end is going to look like this with the overhand knot. Before you take the knot out, grab a piece of thread. I like Fireline, just a scrap piece. And you're going to take the thread and tie a knot just under your overhand knot with the thread. You're going to tie a nice tight knot. And then you're going to wrap around and around and around, making this really, really tight. Let's see if I can get that. It's going to be hard to see because of the colors of the cord. You're going to wrap it around. You just want to tie this off as tightly as you can and make another knot. And then you can undo your overhand knot. And it's not going to come undone, which is what this end is. And you can see the little ends of the Fireline are still there. Now, to end your piece up here, you're going to want to take 2 of your cords and tie them in a half hitch to keep your braid from unbraiding. So I'm just taking them off, and I'm going to tie like the first thing that you do when you tie a shoe. You're going to tie it like this, and then you're going to take these all off the disc and do exactly the same thing. And you're going to take a piece of, I'm going to take this off. You're going to take a piece of Fireline and you're going to tie it around and around and around. And it's going to look like that when you're finished. So now we have these 2 ends. Now this is what it'll look like on both ends with the little wrap of Fireline. Let's see if you can see that on there. And your ends. In order to put the findings on, you're going to want to look for findings that are an 8mm diameter. And in this case, the end caps will tell you what the inner diameter is. You're going to take some glue. Put these aside for now. I have trimmed my ends to like 1/4 inch from the wrap. And I'm going to put glue over those ends and on the knot on the Fireline, let it dry. You're going to do that to both ends and let them dry. Now, before you glue this on, you want to take your ending and make sure that it's going to go up all the way to the braid. And you can see on this that it doesn't quite reach the braid. I can still see the little threads here. So I'm going to take my nippers and and this is glued, which is partly why you have to have your nippers, and you're going to cut it a little shorter. Just trim it a little bit at a time, a couple cords at a time, until you have maybe a scant 1/8 of an inch. You're going to have that. Now this is going to fit all the way down against the braid. So what you're going to do next is put a little bit of glue inside, like 1/4 of the way, fill it with glue. I'm using the Zap jewelry glue that came in the Beadsmith Kumihimo Kit. You can use E6000 or GS Hyper Cement. And you're going to put the glue inside here. You put this in and set it down, not on your mat, set it down on like a scrap piece of paper. And you're going to let it dry. This isn't glued, so it's coming out, but you're going to let it dry completely before you add your clasp. That's it, you guys. Then you can add, these have little loops on it. The findings usually come with jump rings, and you can add whatever kind of clasp you want. if you find that your necklace is shorter than you had planned, I'm going to show you that you can take the same endings. Here's a little shorty necklace that I did. And I have my end findings on, and I attached a chain to it to lengthen it. So you can do that. This was also another Kumihimo class that I taught that just showed you some different ways to do stuff. I think 301?
301.
301. So you can lengthen your necklace and make it adjustable if you want to add a chain, or you can make the necklace longer like that. Now I guess I could answer questions. So what do we have? Yarn scraps. Bryn, hi. Bryn in Alaska says she uses yarn scraps for practicing. That's terrific. Good idea. Other questions?
I think I answered them all.
I see a lot of things in the chat. I'm going to open the chat for a second.
Yeah.
Minimum number of cords you can use for practice. This is from JT, who says they're a true beginner. I would say the 8-cord braid is the basic braid. Like I set up there. That's really the basic braid for a true beginner. When using thinner cords, cut the same length? Yes. 3 times as long as your desired length? Yes.
Mindy, what did Mindy say? Mindy said, the things are in the chat are going by too fast for me now.
I know. My cords are great, but stiff. Can my tension be too tight? Yes. And it depends on the cord. Are you using, this is Doreen saying this, if your braid is really, really stiff and you're using the satin cord, it is a tension thing. And they really will kind of soften up if you massage them. So.
And Mindy, yes, you can add beads after you finish braiding.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In this necklace, these slide on here. These are just little simple rings of seed beads that I knotted together and slid on. One thing you want to keep in mind if you want to add beads after braiding, if the holes, depending on the size of the holes, you probably want to put them on before you put your end caps on, because the end caps are going to add bulk here and you may not be able to get those beads on if you have a big, nice, chunky focal bead. So you want to make sure that you're going to string your bead before you put the end caps on, or make sure that it'll fit over the end caps, and then you can change your beads out. What are my 2 dark colors? In this braid, this is black and white. These colors this is a light gray and a dark gray, also satin cord. These are the colors that come with the Kumihimo disc kit. At least I think most of them do. And they're the light and dark gray, a black, and a gold. And these have different gauges. So the black and gold cords are thinner. So there's a really nice kind of a texture going on here. Let's see. I see that there's, thank you, Leslie Pope, for posting the link to the ceramic rondelles that I used. Oh, really nice. Yes, they are. My little ball.
So what to do when glue comes out of the top when you put the bead cap on? That means you just have maybe a little bit too much glue. You put too much glue in the end before you insert it.
Yes, that's why I said you only want to put like, maybe you want to fill this like 1/3 of the way at most with the glue. And if it squishes out, just be careful. You're going to want to, I actually like tape my things up against something so that the end caps are sitting straight up and down so they don't slide off. You can take a toothpick or the edge of an index card or something and carefully wipe the glue away. Try not to get it on your fingers because all these glues are will be with you for a while if you get them on your hands. But I have tablets, I have like little pieces of scrap paper near me in a dish so that I can use that for messy work if I need to. I also have toothpicks and little sticks and dowel rods and things are good handy tools to have for a lot of stuff.
And you can find the videos on the Michael's website. Everyone. Yes. And we have another question. Can you use different types of cords together for texture? Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely.
And there was
some of the really cool cords that are being sold for macrame can be used. You want to make sure about you try it. You know, try a little section of it and see what happens. But good question about experimenting. I mean, Bryn had just shared with us that she uses yarn. You can do Kumihimo with so many cool different kinds of fibers. And I know when you go into Michael's, you're going to find all kinds of novelty yarns and these big thick chenille things. You can do that Kumihimo with that. But you do want to experiment because they're going to have different amounts of stretch in them. Will it get wonky? Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's a good wonky. The thing to remember is between a heavier cord and a cord like a yarn, which is kind of porous, you know, and more fibrous, is that you want to make sure when you're knotting it that the cords are going to pull into the softer cord. The harder cords are going to pull into the fluffier cords. So that could really be a wonderful thing in adding a texture to your braid. But you want to make sure it's something that you want. So it's always good to practice, and it's always good to keep your practice sections on hand so you remember. I think I answered the glue, and that information again is all in the tutorial. Lynn is saying she's used ribbon. Somebody's saying, can you do this with wire? Yes, it's a whole different experience with wire. It's different how you end it, and depending on whether you use flexible beading wire or a hard beading wire will make a difference. It's stunning when it's done with a nice level of craft, absolutely. And thank you very much, my rings, thank you.
One more question.
Yes.
Can you sew on a statement bead?
Well, sure. But one of the things you can do, the finding kits may come with a ring that slides over the rope that has a little loop on it, like this. Can you see that end? So this would be on the rope like this, and you can add a dangle. Let me find the piece that fell on the floor here somewhere. Here it is. So here I've taken a centerline component that has beads in it, and I've used a jump ring to attach it. So that if you want to, if you have your rope, get these out of the way, I can just slide it right on before I put my end findings on. And then you can have a dangle. That's probably better than sewing it on. And one of the reasons I say that is because, you know, when you move, your necklace moves around your neck like this. And if it's stitched on, it's going to go to the side. It's better to have a ring that's attached, either a large jump ring that you attach to your focal or a wire wrapped loop, something that moves as your necklace moves, so that this is always going to stay and behave itself when worn. Okay. Any more questions then? Well, Okay, if not, then Lindsay, if you could bring me back. Thank you all. Great questions, great group. Thank you so much again on behalf of Michaels and the Beadsmith, from me, Leslie Rogalski, from Leslie Pope, also at the Beadsmith, from Lindsay, who does the tech gigs so well. We've done this before together. Remember, this is being recorded and you know where you can go and get it. You can look back in the chat and go to the Michaels website. So everybody stay safe. We're almost through this. And have a very happy Passover and Easter and spring wherever you are. Thanks again. See ya. Oh, wait, one more thing before we go.
Oh, yes, the next class.
My next class.
Whoopsie, we just lost 10 people.
Oh, well. Macrame necklace. My next class is April 13th at, I think it's 2:00 Eastern time. We're going to learn some very basic traditional macrame with these wonderful, wonderful soft cords and findings, and macrame in some of these metal beads.
Oh,
So that's
people have
macrame.
already signed up for it.
All right.
Yeah.
So I will see you in a couple weeks for the macrame class. Again, thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.